What's up everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's time for another recap of what went down on this week's episode of Teen Mom 2. Sorry in advance for any noise you might hear in the background. My upstairs neighbors are currently breaking up. They're trying to figure out who gets to keep the apartment. God bless them and good luck. Moving into this recap, we start off with Kale telling her kids that this is the last time they're going to take family photos as a family of 4, and Lincoln immediately asks if Chris can join them to take the photos. Kale ignores it, but I was like, oh, this poor kid. Like, it seemed like Lincoln legitimately developed some kind of an attachment with Chris, so it's sad to see how this situation went down. Like, he's so oblivious to the fact that there is an active PFA between Kale and Chris at this point. It's just very sad. If you recall, last week Kale told us that her baby was breached and that her doctor did not want to sign off on her having a home birth as a result of that. My arch nemesis Kristen calls her to check in on the baby's status, and Kale lets her know that the baby has officially flipped and is ready to come out head first. By the way, can we talk about how beautiful Kristen's eyes are? Like, you don't really get to see them when she's on the ground dealing with Janelle's BS, but I finally got to notice them. Now, Kale tells Kristen that the hospital was intense and crazy because of COVID, and Kristen asks her in her signature voice, "How, Kale? What was it like?" It turns out that the hospital's sanitary measures, like, you know, wearing masks, everyone being 6 feet apart, and sections being physically separated is what was so terrifying to Kale. She goes, oh my God, with all of that in place, there's no way I could give birth in a hospital. I get it though. She's like, okay, like it's a huge, huge place. This is airborne. It can be anywhere. So she just wants to stay in her own house. Moving on over to Indiana, Jade tells us that she thinks her mom seems clean. So it's time to let her watch her kid unsupervised overnight. Jade talks to her friend about Shawn being a lazy bum with no desire to work as well, before we're quickly transported over to West Virginia, where Leah and Corey decide to send Aaliyah back to school, and then Leah and Jeremy decide that Addie's going to school as well, but Allie's going to stay home and stick to e-learning in order to minimize her chances of getting the virus. I'm really curious about you guys' take of that. Like, I get it in some respects, but in other respects I'm kind of like, okay, well, Aaliyah is going to the same school that Allie would have gone to, so if there is something in the school, Aaliyah would have caught it anyway, and considering she lives in the same house as Allie, she would have brought it back, you know, and then Addie's going to school too, Jeremy's working, Corey's working. I get the idea, and I don't think that there's a wrong answer. It's just so freaking complicated at this point. Now, in Florida, Lewis is still sending Briana money, which really surprised me because it seemed as though he could not be bothered with his daughter at all. I'm surprised he actually wants to financially contribute to her, and I'm impressed, and kudos to him for, you know, doing that, the bare minimum at the very least. But Devoin still isn't. So Briana FaceTimes him to invite him over Friday to discuss setting up a pickup and drop-off schedule for Nova, finances, and Nova's birthday party, etc. And her sister Brittany then comes out to the backyard to talk to her, and she advises her against confronting Devoin about money ahead of Nova's birthday party because it really could ruin things. I felt like her advice was quite good. You know, Bri and Devoin aren't really that great at putting their feelings aside to be next to one another, and you just don't want that kind of uncomfortable tension at a party. And speaking of Nova's birthday, why did she have 2 this season? Didn't she already have one earlier when Briana insisted that Devoin's mom come? It was like this gymnastics themed party, right? Over in Dover, Kale's conversation with her son Lux was too stinking cute, you guys. He thought that they should name the baby brother, and that Creed was inside of Kale's belly playing with his toys. I just freaking love listening to kids talk. I could listen to them all day. They're so cute. She starts going into labor the next day, and so she calls Chris, who then shows up, and her midwife shows up, and we see Chris holding Kale's hand through the labor and chilling in the bed after she gives birth. And we now know that she named the baby Creed Romello Lopez. Yes, he's got Chris's last name, despite Kale talking a big game about him, first of all, not being invited to the birth, and second of all, not signing the birth certificate. He got the birth certificate, the birth, and the last name, child. And I'm pretty sure it's obvious that the name Creed comes from Chris's current boxing obsession as well, so like she really went balls to the wall naming this child for Chris. And has Kale said where the name Romello came from? Because to me, just remembering Kale as the girl who said, my kid can't have that haircut because he's half white, Her naming her other kid Romello, who is also more than half white, mind you, seems like quite the 180. Then in South Dakota, Cole, I don't know, gets a cold or something, and then Chelsea gets stressed out and sends him to get a COVID test. Do you guys think that Cole was isolating in the house while he was awaiting the results? Because he gets the results, just comes to the family room where Chelsea and the kids are, and announces that he's negative, and then he says that he can now kiss his kids and not be afraid. Did he mean that he was apprehensively kissing them before, afraid that he was transmitting the virus? Or did he mean to say, now he doesn't have to be scared to kiss his kids, which means that he wasn't before? And then later, he also said that he tried to distance himself from the family while he was awaiting the results, which to me, I feel like if someone was seriously distancing themselves, like when I went to Canada in March, I was holed up in a bedroom by myself for 2 weeks, you know what I mean? And I was very clear about that with people. I feel like if he was doing that, he would have been very clear about it. Like his vague answering to me kind of seemed like he was still around the family. He wasn't in his own room or wherever for a couple of days while he awaited the results, which completely defeats the purpose of even testing yourself in the first place if you're gonna still be around your family. Back down south in Florida, Devoin texts Briana that he can't take Nova to gymnastics because he has to go to the mall. WTF, you guys, I've been rooting for Devoin, but like he is totally slipping at this point. What do you mean you can't take her to gymnastics because you're going to the mall? Rearrange your time to go to the mall. Your daughter has to go to gymnastics. This is a sport that she is in. She needs to show up to her practices, and you as her dad need to make sure that it happens. Like going to the mall is not freaking mandatory. Then Briana texts him, okay, fine, but like, we need to talk about like our scheduling and finances as well. And then this is where Devoin really escalates things, and he goes, oh, let's talk about finances. How much do you make? Which was completely unnecessary. Briana making money doesn't mean that he can just get away with not paying anything for his daughter. Yeah, it's great that he buys her gifts, shows up to her practices or her sports or whatever, but he still has to financially contribute by way of child support, and Briana making money doesn't get rid of his responsibilities. I was really, really disappointed to hear him say that. But then on the other side, I understood his frustrations about her purchasing things based on her own salary and expecting him to be able to keep up, because one of Briana's big gripes right now is that she wants Devoin to buy Nova an iPad to do her homework, but Nova already has an iPad at Briana's house, so why not just ask Devoin for half the money so that Nova can transport that same iPad back and forth? You know what I mean? Now, Briana tells him that all her money went into her house and she has no money, and if she did have any money, she wouldn't be working a corporate job, and Devoin accuses her of just working a corporate job to be slick, to pretend that she doesn't have the kind of money that she has, which is just so over the line. Devoin accuses Briana of trying to pull the wool over his eyes and having a $15,000 body, but she admits the obvious, which is that the damage was done for free. It's worth noting that his sister did a really good job of trying to stay out of the drama. He kept ranting to her and she would just kind of like giggle a little bit, but like that awkward giggle, and not say anything against Briana, which is amazing. In this next scene, guys, can anyone ID the hot pink lipstick that Allie was wearing when Leah was talking about orientation day? It was so cute. I want it. And you know what? I really am glad to see her be so optimistic about her e-learning. She's like, you know what? This is gonna be great. I get to have some space away from my sisters, some quiet. I am like all in for it, and I really love that for her. Now, OMG, you guys, at Shawn asking Jade for money to go to the store. God bless this girl. Like you're housing this man, feeding him on a daily basis, and paying for daycare because this stay-at-home dad of yours who stepped back from his career to support you, is too lazy to wash your child at your house. And now here he is, he can't even pick you up a bottle of Patron without asking you for money like a child. I'm sorry, my body just tensed up at the thought of being with a man like this, like a dusty, dusty man like this. I can't. I don't know how she does it. I don't know how women with men like this do this. I can't. Like if a man put his hand out like this, expecting to receive money, girl, I would bite that hand. No, you are not getting a red cent from me with all that I do for you. No. So Jade opens up her Steve Madden wallet and gives him some money to go to the store and get her some alcohol. And then he comes back with it acting like he's God's gift to her for paying an extra $10 for special alcohol, and decides to announce it in front of her friend, expecting to get praise. Like, he was probably trying to like act like he bought the whole bottle, but it's like, dude, you pitched in an extra 10. Jade gave you the money. No, like, go to your room, go play your little video game or whatever it is that you do all day, you know, besides working. Yes, Jade should have at least thanked him for running to the store with her money to complete that quick little errand for once in his life, but he didn't need to throw a tantrum about it. And it's ironic that he calls her mom, because he lives like a child, just playing video games and, you know, expecting money from her all day, every day. And then he holds himself up in his video game room and says that it's not like he had to go and do it for her, as he sits up in her house, not paying a single damn bill. Clownery. Over and over again, Kale is finally ready to acknowledge that her nanny Natalie actually lives with her. She's claiming that Natalie is currently living there just to help with Lux while she recovers from giving birth. But FYI, Kale and the boys recently went to Texas, and of course, the nanny and the nanny's son also went as well. This situation is just so depressing. You've given birth to your fourth child, you know, like, you're still all alone. I don't know how Kale does it. Like, I have to kudos her for being able to survive this, because I think I would be just like a depressed emotional wreck, because this is hard. You've already got all these hormones running through you, and you've got literally no one to lean on. You can't even be like, mom, come over, my sister come over, my whoever in my family come over. No, she has to rely on this random woman and her kid to move in to help her with like her newborn. And my heart really does go out to her. That's got to be incredibly difficult, like physically, emotionally, mentally, you name it. In Florida again, Briana talks to her producer complaining about Devoin not wanting to pay child support, and calls him a POS for claiming that her having money means that he doesn't have to finance anything. I can totally see her frustration here, you guys. You know, like, he really doesn't seem to think that he should pay for anything just because she makes money. And I'm starting to notice that Devoin only seems to be able to get buck online and away from Briana. Why did he not tell her at the kitchen table that he did not want to financially contribute to Nova, because she did have a meeting with him and Lewis, and he agreed, wow, you're doing all this, I'm going to do my part to help contribute financially. And now here we are, him claiming because she's got a $15,000 body, MTV paychecks, that he really should not really be doing all that much. In the final scene of the episode, Lincoln and Isaac come back home from their dad's house and meet Creed for the first time. They're so excited to hold their new brother, and Lux was really ecstatic to show him off. It was a really adorable scene. And I gotta mention, at the very end, Kale looked quite pretty in her diary clip where she talked about the brothers meeting Creed for the first time. I was like, girl, to look that nice after birth, God bless, God bless. I would be a wildebeest. Anyway, you guys, that does it. A recap of what went down on this week's episode of Teen Mom 2. But as usual, I'm more excited to hear what you have to say about everything. So please make sure to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.